Have you ever wondered why some older men seem to glow with peace and quiet strength, even though they live alone? As we age, the idea of living alone might stir up thoughts of loneliness or boredom, but for many older men, it's quite the opposite. In fact, living alone can become one of the most freeing, empowering, and even healing experiences of later life. This video is for you if you're a man in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond, and you've either chosen to live alone or are considering it. We'll walk through 8 specific benefits that show why living alone, especially in your later years, can bring more clarity, control, and joy into your life. Each point will touch on something deeper than just surface-level independence. We're talking about peace of mind, personal growth, even a new kind of confidence that comes from knowing who you are without needing anyone else's approval. And if you've ever felt like you're too old to change your lifestyle, or worried that living alone means giving up something vital, you might just find the opposite to be true. This video might help you see living alone, not as a limitation, but as a powerful new chapter. Stay tuned until the end, because you'll discover how living alone in your older years could not only boost your confidence, but change the way you see aging itself. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now let's get started. Number 1, freedom of routine. One of the first and most noticeable benefits of living alone as an older man is the complete freedom you gain over your daily routine. When no one else is sharing your space, you no longer have to negotiate over meal times, sleep schedules, television volume, or what time the lights go off. You can wake up when your body naturally wants to, take your time in the morning, and go about the day exactly as you see fit. That kind of freedom might sound small, but it builds up to something deeply fulfilling over time. Many older men spent decades living by someone else's timetable. Whether it was raising kids, showing up to a job every morning, or making sure they were being considerate to a partner's preferences. But now, for perhaps the first time in years, you can truly center your life around your own rhythm. This freedom allows your body and mind to settle into what feels natural. Maybe your most productive hours are just before dawn, or maybe you find your energy rising late at night when the world is quiet. Living alone means you can follow that internal clock without guilt or disruption. For example, Tom, a 74-year-old retired carpenter, used to wake up at 5:30 every day out of habit, even years after retiring. But once he started living alone, he realized he didn't actually enjoy mornings. Now he sleeps until 8, makes his coffee slowly, and reads by the window until the sun fully rises. He's never felt more rested. This isn't about becoming lazy or undisciplined. In fact, many men find that when they're no longer trying to match someone else's pace, they actually become more consistent and focused. The freedom of living alone helps you rebuild a sense of internal balance that was hard to maintain in a shared life. And it's not just the big routines, it's the little things too. Listening to your favorite music without compromise, eating the foods you like when you want, watching the old westerns or baseball reruns without having to explain your choices. It's the subtle sense that everything in your home is finally yours. Even chores become more peaceful. There's no pressure to match someone else's standards. You decide how clean the kitchen should be, what the garden should look like, and how the home smells and feels. It's no longer a negotiation, it's a reflection of you. And perhaps most importantly, living alone allows you the time and space to check in with yourself throughout the day. How am I feeling? What do I need? What would make today meaningful? You don't need permission to change your plans. You don't need to explain yourself. When a man has the power to live by his own clock, without apology or compromise, something inside him strengthens. That quiet autonomy is more than just a convenience. It's the foundation for deeper self-trust. And the older you get, the more precious that becomes. Number 2, mental clarity and peace. Living alone as an older man can be one of the most powerful ways to protect your peace of mind. When you're not constantly adjusting to someone else's mood, noise, or expectations, your nervous system has the chance to settle. Over time, that quiet environment supports a sense of inner calm. That's hard to find in a shared home. It's not that being around others is always stressful, but for many older men, especially those who spent years problem-solving for a family or workplace, the absence of constant input can feel like a long overdue exhale. In a home of your own, the silence isn't empty, it's restorative. There's less small talk, fewer distractions, and none of the emotional tension that can come from sharing space with someone whose habits or energy don't quite match yours. You no longer have to read the room, walk on eggshells, or wonder if something you said hit the wrong note. You can just be, And that stillness gives your mind room to breathe. Without the constant buzz of someone else's television, voice, or emotions in your space, you might find your thoughts getting clearer. Ideas you've been too busy to notice start to rise. Patterns you've lived with for decades begin to make sense. Frank, a 69-year-old former bus driver, said he didn't realize how much tension he was carrying in his chest until he spent 3 full weeks alone after his divorce. No arguments, no passive-aggressive silences, just quiet. He said for the first time in years, his thoughts felt like they belonged to him. This clarity also shows up in your emotional life. You begin to realize which feelings are truly yours and which ones were reactions to someone else's. The highs and lows even out. You stop over-explaining or defending your choices. The quiet becomes a teacher. And in that peace, a sense of control begins to return. You decide what you want to focus on, whether it's a project, a memory, a walk outside, or simply sipping coffee and staring at the sky. You get to spend more time in reflection, gratitude, and observation, things that are easily lost in a crowded or emotionally demanding environment. Even your physical space starts to mirror your clarity. A tidy, quiet home brings ease to your mind. You may notice your sleep improves, your digestion steadies, and your energy becomes more consistent. And it's not magic. It's the nervous system finally operating without constant interruption. Of course, some people fear that too much quiet will lead to loneliness. But there's a difference between being alone and being isolated. Living alone gives you the option for solitude, without the obligation to entertain or accommodate others. And that freedom changes everything. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, rediscovery of self. One of the most surprising and rewarding things that can happen when you start living alone as an older man is rediscovering who you really are. After decades of showing up as a provider, a partner, a parent, or an employee, it's easy to lose track of the quieter parts of yourself. The parts that existed long before the titles and responsibilities piled up. When the house becomes quiet and the days are fully your own, there's a kind of space that opens up, not just physically, but internally. You begin to notice what draws your attention, what books you're reaching for, what music you start playing again, the thoughts you have when no one else is steering the conversation. Many men don't realize how much of their identity was shaped by the people around them, until those people aren't around every day. And while that realization can feel jarring at first, it's also a doorway back to the self, a deeper self, one that was always there, but often put on hold for the sake of family, career, or comfort. Charles, a 76-year-old widower, once said he didn't remember the last time he painted a picture before moving into his own apartment. It wasn't that anyone had stopped him. He had simply forgotten he loved it. After a few months of living alone, he picked up a paintbrush again, and that quiet joy returned like an old friend. Living alone removes the constant social mirror that subtly tells you who to be. Without needing to match someone's expectations or adapt to their moods, you can finally ask yourself, what do I enjoy? What do I believe? What have I been missing? Maybe it's something simple, like wearing slippers all day, or rearranging the furniture without asking anyone's opinion. Or maybe it's bigger, like picking up a hobby you abandoned in your 30s, or pursuing a spiritual path you never had time to explore. You might find that the foods you cook, the shows you watch, and even the way you speak to yourself begins to change. The absence of constant interaction creates space for curiosity to return. That inner spark you thought was gone, it's still there. It just needed a little room to breathe. There's a kind of quiet pride that comes from this rediscovery. It's not about chasing youth or clinging to old versions of yourself. It's about honoring the man you've become and giving him permission to keep growing. And at this stage of life, growth looks different. It's softer, slower, but no less powerful. Some men begin journaling again. Others travel alone for the first time. Some finally feel ready to face old memories and release past regrets. The beautiful thing about solitude is that it doesn't rush you. It simply invites you to return to yourself. And when you spend enough time with that self, something beautiful starts to happen. You become more content in your own company. You stop needing to prove anything. You speak more gently to yourself. And you begin to feel at home, not just in your house, but in your own mind. In a world that often tells older men to stay strong, stay busy, stay useful, Choosing solitude is a quiet act of rebellion. It says, I matter, even when no one's watching. And that belief can change how you carry yourself in every part of life. Because once you've reconnected with who you are beneath the noise, you begin to live not out of habit, but from a place of truth. And that kind of life, even lived alone, is never lonely. It's rooted, rich, and deeply alive. Number 4, financial control. Living alone often brings a level of financial control that many older men haven't experienced in years. When you're the only one managing the money, every decision, big or small, comes back to you. There's no more negotiating over purchases, no more surprise expenses, and no more stress from someone else's spending habits. You get to decide how much to save, how much to spend, and what truly matters to you. It's not about becoming stingy or overly cautious. It's about clarity. Living alone lets you look at your budget and say, this is enough. And that kind of peace is something many older men say they didn't realize they were missing. Without the need to support someone else's lifestyle or habits, you may find that your money goes further. Maybe it's in the form of a smaller grocery bill, a downsized space with lower rent or utilities, or fewer entertainment costs. Even little things like choosing not to subscribe to services you don't use or skipping outings that used to feel obligatory start to add up. James, an 81-year-old veteran, shared that once he moved into a small, one-bedroom place and started living alone, he finally understood where his money had been leaking. He realized he didn't need 3 streaming services, 2 cars, or weekly dinners out. He kept what mattered and let go of what didn't. The best part? There's no guilt. You're not depriving anyone. You're simply aligning your finances with your life. That means if you want to spend more on something you love, like quality food, a well-made jacket, or travel, you can do so without second-guessing, because every dollar is your decision. And that sense of financial independence often brings emotional benefits too. When you know exactly what's coming in and going out, stress levels drop. You sleep better. You stop worrying about whether someone else is being responsible. You know the answer, because it's you. This kind of control can also reignite long-term thinking. Maybe you start investing again. Maybe you finally write that will, or organize your savings, or create a simple budget that feels empowering instead of restrictive. It's a chance to lead your financial life with intention, not just habit. And for some men, living alone is when they begin giving more freely, not just because they can, but because they want to. A grandchild's education, a neighbor in need. Generosity becomes a choice, not a burden. You also get to define what luxury means to you. For one man, it might be fresh flowers on the table. For another, it might be a quiet fishing trip once a month. The point is, you're no longer trying to fit your life into someone else's budget. You're shaping it around your own values. And when that happens, your money starts to feel less like something to chase and more like something that serves you. It becomes a tool for freedom, not a source of anxiety. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, privacy and health management. One of the most underappreciated benefits of living alone as an older man is the privacy it offers when it comes to managing your health. As we age, doctor visits, medications, physical changes, and even bathroom habits can become more frequent and sometimes more sensitive. Having your own space means you get to handle all of it without feeling watched, judged, or rushed. When you live with others, even those who care deeply about you, there's often an unspoken pressure to minimize your struggles. You might feel the need to downplay discomfort, hide your fatigue, or put on a brave face just to avoid worrying someone else. But living alone removes that performance. You can be fully honest with yourself about how you're feeling and respond accordingly. Take James, a 77-year-old man living alone in Michigan. He was recently diagnosed with a chronic digestive condition. When he lived with his daughter and her family, he found himself skipping meals or pushing through symptoms to avoid disrupting their routines. But once he moved into his own space, he started managing his condition more effectively, eating when his body needed it, adjusting his routine, and even making time for gentle stretching after meals without feeling self-conscious. Living alone also allows you to keep health matters private until you are ready to share. Whether it's learning about a new diagnosis, recovering from a procedure, or adjusting to new medication, there's value in having the space to process it all quietly. You don't have to explain every appointment, every side effect, every pill. You just focus on healing. And for many older men, this privacy also helps with maintaining dignity. Some health-related tasks like taking insulin, using assistive devices, or dealing with incontinence can feel embarrassing even in front of loved ones. But in your own space, you can handle them without fear of interruption or exposure. That privacy restores a sense of control. You get to design your routines around what actually helps you feel better. Maybe that means taking a nap in the middle of the day, or using a heating pad while watching TV, or soaking your feet in the kitchen sink without anyone asking questions. You're not adjusting to someone else's expectations of how a healthy person should look. You're listening to your body and responding with kindness. It also becomes easier to organize your medications, supplements, and records. You're free to set up reminders, store things where they make sense to you, and track your progress without someone else rearranging your system. That kind of autonomy makes managing health feel more doable. And let's not overlook one more thing. When you do need help, you get to choose when and how to ask. You're not obligated to involve someone in every little thing, but you can build a system of support that reflects your preferences: a trusted friend, a nearby neighbor, a visiting nurse. It's your call. Living alone doesn't mean ignoring your health. It means managing it on your own terms. And for many men, that shift turns what was once a source of frustration into a daily act of self-respect. You stop waiting for someone else to care for you, and you realize you're already doing a pretty fine job yourself. Number 6, no emotional burden from others' moods. One of the most overlooked freedoms of living alone is the ability to protect your emotional energy. When you share a home, whether with a spouse, family, or even a roommate, you're constantly picking up on other people's moods, frustrations, and emotional swings. And over time, that silent weight adds up. Living alone means your home becomes an emotional sanctuary. You're no longer waking up to someone else's bad mood. You're not walking on eggshells or trying to solve someone's problem before you've had your coffee. That daily emotional management, something so many men have done without question, suddenly disappears. And it's only when it's gone that you realize how much it was costing you. Mike, a 73-year-old retired mechanic, told me that after his wife passed, what he missed wasn't just her presence, but also what he didn't miss. He no longer felt the need to mediate arguments, smooth over misunderstandings, or cheer someone up just to keep the household running. What emerged was a kind of quiet relief he hadn't known he needed. This isn't to say relationships are bad, but constant emotional entanglement can be draining, especially in later life when energy is more limited. Living alone offers the chance to protect what emotional fuel you have and spend it intentionally, not reactively. You get to decide what enters your emotional space. If the news feels overwhelming, you turn it off. If someone's text message feels demanding, you don't have to respond right away. If a memory stirs up something difficult, you have space to sit with it privately. There's no one pressuring you to move on or explain. It also allows you to regulate your inner world more consistently. Without outside emotional noise, your own feelings become easier to track and understand. You start noticing patterns. What makes you feel calm? What stresses you out? What brings unexpected joy? That awareness is a gift, and it leads to greater self-compassion. You're not comparing your reactions to someone else's. You're not being told to lighten up or get over it. You respond to your own emotions with the care and respect they deserve. And here's something else. When you do choose to engage with others, you bring a steadier, more grounded presence. You're not showing up already worn down. You're not overcompensating for someone else's volatility. You're simply showing up as yourself, clear, calm, and ready to connect on your own terms. For men who have spent decades navigating the emotional landscape of family life, this kind of autonomy can feel unfamiliar at first. You may even feel guilty for enjoying it. But that guilt fades when you realize you're not shutting people out. You're just reclaiming your right to emotional rest. And it makes a difference. Better sleep, lower blood pressure, fewer outbursts, less resentment, all because you're no longer carrying the invisible weight of someone else's stress. In solitude, your nervous system resets. You laugh more freely. You cry more honestly. You grieve and celebrate without feeling judged. And maybe for the first time in a long while, you feel emotionally safe in your own home. That kind of peace can't be bought, but it can be built one quiet, intentional day at a time. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 7, more time for purposeful solitude. When you're living alone, something special starts to happen. Your time becomes your own again. And with that time comes something many men didn't realize they were missing: purposeful solitude. Not just being alone, but being alone with intention. Without the constant company or expectations of others, you gain long stretches of uninterrupted time. And in those quiet hours, you begin to rediscover the value of simply being. Not doing, not performing, not fixing, just being. This solitude creates a natural space for reflection. For reading the book you've picked up 5 times but never finished. For sitting in a chair with a warm drink and no particular goal in mind. For walking around your neighborhood at your own pace, not needing to make conversation or follow anyone else's steps. There's something sacred about that freedom. It brings a different kind of richness, one built not on activity but on presence. And it doesn't mean you stop being productive. In fact, many men find themselves getting more things done, not because they're rushing, but because there's no interruption. You can fix a cabinet, write a letter, organize your garage, or plant a few tomatoes, all on your timeline. But more than anything, solitude becomes the ground where peace and meaning can grow. You begin to notice small joys again, the light shifting across the floor, the way your body relaxes when music plays, the quiet satisfaction of finishing a task you started for no one but yourself. And from this place of solitude, creativity often awakens. Maybe you begin journaling, or playing an old guitar, or baking bread just to see if you can. Maybe you start writing your memories down, not for anyone else, but because they deserve a place in the world. Ben, a 68-year-old who retired from law enforcement, said he was surprised to find how deeply he enjoyed watercolor painting after years of avoiding quiet hobbies. He told me he hadn't felt that peaceful since childhood. That's the power of solitude. It gives you back parts of yourself you didn't know were still waiting. It also gives you space to feel things fully, to process past regrets without being interrupted, to grieve what was lost, to celebrate what remains. No one's watching. No one's correcting your tears or hurrying your joy. And here's what many men don't realize until they live alone. Solitude doesn't shrink your world, it deepens it. You begin to understand your own rhythms and desires. You stop trying to fill every moment with noise. And in that quiet, you often find strength you didn't know was still there. The world outside may be rushing faster every year, but inside your space, time slows down just enough to matter. You stop living for the next appointment or the next obligation. You start living each moment as it arrives. And when you do connect with others, whether it's an old friend, a grandchild, or a kind stranger at the market, you do so from a place of fullness, not depletion. Your solitude becomes a source of renewal, not a sign of distance. You're not hiding from the world. You're preparing yourself to meet it with more clarity, presence, and purpose. And that kind of life? It may look simple from the outside, but from within, it feels profoundly whole. Number 8, ability to build selective relationships. One of the most powerful and often unexpected benefits of living alone as an older man is the freedom to build relationships on your terms. When you're not constantly surrounded by people out of obligation, you start to realize how many interactions were based on habit, not genuine connection. Living alone gives you the opportunity to choose who you spend time with, how often, and in what way. There's no pressure to entertain daily, no silent expectations to engage in conversation when you'd rather rest. You become the gatekeeper of your social energy, and that's not just convenient, it's empowering. You begin to notice who energizes you, who respects your time, and who actually listens. And perhaps even more important, you notice who doesn't. With this awareness, many older men start trimming the excess. The phone calls that always leave you drained. The visits that feel more like chores than joy. The people who never ask how you're really doing. Instead, you start making room for smaller, richer connections. A friend you haven't seen in years who suddenly feels like family. A neighbor who shares your love for gardening. A conversation with someone at church that lingers in your mind longer than expected. These moments become deeper because you're showing up by choice, not out of duty. This kind of social life is not loud or crowded, it's intentional. You might meet a friend for breakfast once a week, or invite someone over for coffee and music on a quiet Sunday. And when it's over, you return to your peaceful space without guilt or tension. Larry, an 80-year-old bachelor, told me that he used to feel lonely in a house full of relatives. But now living alone, he's found more meaning in a single heartfelt chat than in years of surface-level small talk. When I talk to someone now, he said, it's because I want to, not because I'm expected to. And for those open to it, living alone can even open doors to new kinds of connection. Volunteering, support groups, online communities, walking clubs, whatever fits your interests. These aren't just ways to stay busy. They're opportunities to meet people who align with your current values, pace, and mindset. And here's something important. Building selective relationships doesn't mean shutting people out. It means honoring the kind of space you've worked hard to create. It's about giving yourself permission to connect only when it feels right. Some men find that this leads to stronger family bonds. When you're not living under the same roof, visits become more meaningful. Conversations are more intentional. Boundaries are clearer, and everyone leaves feeling a little more respected. Others discover that the best relationship they've built is the one with themselves. And from that foundation, everything else gets healthier. Friendships, dating, even the way you talk to the checkout clerk. You show up fully, not because you're trying to impress or fix or rescue anyone, but because you're steady in who you are. That kind of self-possession is magnetic. Living alone doesn't mean living without love. In fact, it often leads you straight to it, on your own time, in your own way, and in exactly the measure that brings peace instead of pressure. And at this point in life, isn't that what connection should feel like? Real, respectful, and entirely your choice. Final thoughts. Connection. Living alone as an older man is often misunderstood. People might assume it's lonely, that it's a sign of decline, or that it means giving something up. But as we've seen, the truth is often the opposite. For many men, it's one of the most empowering, peaceful, and clarifying chapters of life. You've seen how it can bring freedom in your routine, calm in your mind, a deeper sense of self, and real control over your finances and emotions. You've heard how it can offer privacy and health, room for reflection, and the chance to build the kind of relationships that actually matter. So now I want to ask you, which of these benefits stood out to you the most? Which one do you see in your own life, or hope to embrace in the years ahead? Maybe you've been living alone for a while now, but never realized how much it was helping you grow. Or maybe you're just beginning this path and wondering what it might bring. Either way, know this: living alone does not make you less connected, less valuable, or less whole. In fact, it often gives you the space to reconnect with the parts of yourself that were waiting quietly all along. The parts that are wise. And it's that inner strength, the one built in solitude, that often becomes your greatest companion in later life. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.